In a politically charged atmosphere, the Democratic Party finds itself at a crossroads, grappling with its identity and future direction as it faces a formidable opponent in Donald Trump. Recent comments and actions by former President Joe Biden have ignited a wave of discontent among party members, signaling a potential rift as Democrats strive to redefine their narrative in the wake of electoral challenges. Biden's reappearance in the public eye, particularly during a recent interview on The View alongside former First Lady Jill Biden, has prompted sharp reactions. While he acknowledged his role in the resurgence of Trump, many within the party are expressing a strong desire for a generational shift in leadership. Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha voiced a common sentiment, stating, "It's time for Joe Biden to go away, with all due respect, and let the next generation of Democrats take the mantle." This call for change reflects a broader frustration as party members seek to distance themselves from past failures and re-establish their footing in a polarized political landscape. The Democratic Party is currently navigating turbulent waters, having lost significant ground in Washington and facing internal debates over its strategy and leadership. As Rocha pointed out, Biden's continued prominence serves as a constant reminder of past defeats, which hampers efforts to rejuvenate the party's image. "Every time he appears on a show, it's just another week or a month that we have to defend him," he lamented, highlighting the challenges of rebuilding the party's brand amid unwanted reminders of its recent history. Biden's allies, however, are urging a more nuanced view of his contributions. Erica Lowy, a former special assistant to Biden, emphasized the importance of his perspective, arguing that as the only individual to have defeated Trump, Biden should remain part of the ongoing conversation surrounding the party's future. Yet even within supportive circles, there is recognition of the need for introspection. Amanda Littman, co-founder of the progressive group Run for Something, articulated the necessity of prioritizing new voices that could inspire and mobilize the party base. The impending release of an investigative book titled Original Sin, which promises to delve into Biden's mental acuity and the decision process behind his re-election bid, raises further concerns. This scrutiny, combined with ongoing discussions about Biden's age and the party's handling of inflation and cultural issues, adds to the urgency for Democrats to pivot away from past narratives and focus on revitalizing their message. While some strategists like Ashley Etienne see potential in Biden's re-emergence, suggesting that honest reflection on past mistakes is vital for moving forward, many others are weary of the distractions his presence brings. Georgia-based strategist Andrew Heaton likened the current situation to a wildfire, indicating that while understanding the origins of the party's challenges is essential, the immediate focus should be on progress rather than revisiting old grievances. The political landscape appears to be shifting in favor of Democrats in some respects, with recent electoral successes such as the election of their preferred candidate in a Wisconsin Supreme Court race suggesting that the party may be regaining some momentum. However, this nascent optimism is overshadowed by Biden's continued spotlight, which many argue detracts from these victories and perpetuates a narrative of division. As the Democratic Party grapples with these internal and external pressures, it faces an urgent need for clarity in its messaging and leadership. The absence of a unifying banner or figure, a stark contrast to the Republicans' robust MAGA identity, leaves Democrats searching for a cohesive narrative that can resonate with voters. Historical insights reveal that the term liberal once provided such a framework for Democrats, but its decline has left a void that must be filled if the party hopes to recover and thrive. Looking ahead, the Democratic Party stands at a pivotal moment where the decisions made today will shape its trajectory for years to come. With the 2024 election on the horizon, the urgency for a revitalized, forward-thinking approach has never been greater. As the party evaluates its past and contemplates its future, the challenge will be to harness the lessons learned while fostering a new generation of leaders capable of navigating the complexities of contemporary politics. In this evolving landscape, the need for unity and a compelling vision will be paramount if Democrats aim to reclaim their place in the national conversation and effectively counter the conservative agenda championed by Trump and his allies. In an evolving political landscape marked by significant ideological shifts, the distinction between traditional conservatism and the current iteration of the Republican party heavily influenced by former President Donald Trump and his MAGA movement has become increasingly pronounced. This divergence has sparked a critical debate among political commentators and voters alike, particularly as the 2026 elections loom on the horizon. Des Potas, an opinion columnist for USA Today, articulates a clear distinction between his identity as a conservative and the broader label of Republican, asserting that not all who identify as right-wing adhere to conservative principles. "I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I voted for a conservative," Potas states, emphatically underscoring a sentiment that resonates with many who feel alienated by the current party's alignment under Trump's leadership. For these conservatives, the core values of American founding, such as the separation of powers and individual liberty, are being overshadowed by a party that increasingly prioritizes partisan loyalty over principle. The implications of this ideological shift are profound. As Potas observes, the Republican Party's allegiance has morphed, with many members willing to compromise on foundational conservative tenets in favor of Trump's populist agenda. This phenomenon is not limited to the national stage, as highlighted in separate coverage by the Boston Herald. Local Republican candidates in Massachusetts are grappling with whether to embrace or distance themselves from Trump as they prepare for the upcoming elections. The state's GOP is deeply divided, with some advocating for a recognition of Trump's contributions while others warn that any association could alienate moderate voters. Mike Keneally, a Republican gubernatorial candidate in Massachusetts, recently faced backlash for his reluctance to endorse Trump, reflecting the precarious balancing act many candidates must navigate. His experience illustrates a broader trend within the party: candidates must tread carefully, balancing the need to appeal to Trump's base against the risk of turning off independent and moderate voters. "You have to thread the needle," Keneally remarked, acknowledging the dual pressures of party loyalty and the desire for broader electoral appeal. Critics of Trump's policies have emerged from within the Republican establishment, with figures like Stan Duger, a senior economist at the American Enterprise Institute, expressing concerns about the former president's approach to economic policy and international relations. Duger criticized Trump's management of relationships with traditional allies, particularly Canada, describing it as incomprehensible and detrimental to the United States' global standing. He argues that Trump's protectionist tariffs and trade strategies have not only mismanaged bilateral relationships but have also created significant economic uncertainty, which could stifle investment and hiring across various sectors. As Potas and others contend, the conflation of terms like right-wing and conservative risks legitimizing a movement that does not align with traditional conservative values. This semantic shift could lead to a broader misunderstanding of the political landscape, complicating efforts to articulate and promote genuine conservatism. The urgency for clarity in political discourse is echoed by Potas's call for the media and commentators to accurately describe the movement that is currently dominating the Republican Party. As the political climate continues to evolve, the impact of Trump's influence on the GOP and its candidates is likely to remain a contentious issue. With the 2026 elections approaching, how candidates navigate this divide will be crucial not only for their electoral success but also for the future trajectory of the Republican Party as it grapples with its identity amid shifting voter sentiments. As both conservatives and Republicans seek to define their positions, the ongoing dialogue will be pivotal in shaping the political narrative in America. In a significant development for the 2026 midterm elections, Michigan State Representative Joe Tate has officially entered the race for the open U.S. Senate seat in Michigan, setting the stage for a competitive Democratic primary. Tate, who made history as the first black Speaker of the Michigan House of Representatives, is vying for the position left vacant by the retiring Senator Gary Peters. His candidacy adds to an already crowded field of Democratic contenders, including U.S. Representative Haley Stevens and State Senator Mallory McMorrow, as well as former gubernatorial candidate Abdul El-Sayed. Tate announced his campaign on Sunday, reflecting on the legacy of his grandparents who migrated to Detroit from Alabama during the Great Migration. "I'm running for the U.S. Senate because I want to continue to keep that promise that my grandparents came up to Michigan for," he stated in an interview with the Associated Press. His campaign promises to focus on issues such as gun control and free school meals, which align with his legislative accomplishments during his time in office. Despite his achievements, Tate faces challenges stemming from recent setbacks within the Michigan Democratic Party, particularly following the 2024 elections, where the party lost control of the state house. Critics have pointed to the internal divisions among Democrats that contributed to a chaotic end to the last legislative session, where key bills aimed at economic development and public health were left unaddressed. In response to the backlash, Tate emphasized his pride in the progress made during his tenure, highlighting legislation on universal background checks for firearms and the provision of free meals for schoolchildren. The political landscape in Michigan is particularly volatile, with the 2026 Senate race poised to be a battleground for both parties. On the Republican side, former U.S. Representative Mike Rogers is also running, having narrowly lost to Democrat Elissa Slotkin in the previous Senate contest. As Tate seeks the Democratic nomination, he will need to navigate not only his party's internal conflicts but also the broader implications of the national political climate, heavily influenced by the ongoing repercussions of Donald Trump's presidency. This Senate race is emblematic of a larger struggle for the Democratic Party in Michigan as they aim to regain momentum and appeal to a diverse electorate. With Tate's entry, the competition is expected to intensify as candidates jockey for endorsements and resources in an effort to secure their place on the ballot. As Michigan becomes a focal point in the national political arena, all eyes will be on the unfolding dynamics within the Democratic primary. As the 2026 election approaches, the outcome of this Senate race could have lasting impacts not only on Michigan's political landscape but also on the Democratic Party's strategy as they seek to reclaim a majority in Congress. With a deep bench of candidates, including Tate's compelling personal narrative and legislative background, voters will be tasked with deciding who can best represent their interests in a rapidly changing political environment. The coming months will undoubtedly reveal more about the candidates' positions and their ability to connect with constituents, setting the stage for what promises to be a riveting electoral battle. In a significant turn of events for American politics, Donald Trump has been officially certified as the next President of the United States following a joint session of Congress held on January 6, 2025. This announcement, made by Vice President Kamala Harris, marks a pivotal moment in the political landscape as the nation prepares for a potential shift in governance and policy direction. The certification process, which involved the counting of electoral college votes, is a constitutional formality that underscores the democratic process despite the contentious nature of the election. The atmosphere surrounding the joint session was charged, reflecting the deep divisions within the electorate and the heightened scrutiny on the electoral process. Harris stated, "The announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration." This statement not only confirmed Trump's victory but also highlighted the procedural integrity upheld during a period of intense political fervor. As Trump steps back into the limelight, his administration is expected to revisit and potentially reshape various policies that characterized his previous tenure, particularly in areas such as immigration, trade, and foreign affairs. Simultaneously, the political landscape is also witnessing a surge of new candidates vying for critical legislative positions. In Michigan, State Representative Joe Tate has launched his campaign for the U.S. Senate, joining a crowded field of Democratic contenders aiming to secure the seat left vacant by retiring Senator Gary Peters. Tate's candidacy is particularly noteworthy as he seeks to maintain the momentum generated during his tenure as the first black Speaker of the Michigan House of Representatives. Speaking to the Associated Press, Tate expressed his motivation, stating, "I'm running for the U.S. Senate because I want to continue to keep that promise that my grandparents came up to Michigan for." This personal narrative reflects a broader appeal to the electorate, emphasizing legacy and community commitment. However, Tate's campaign is not without challenges. His leadership faced criticism following a turbulent legislative session that ended in dysfunction, leaving many Democratic priorities unaddressed. As Republicans regained control of the House, internal party divisions became apparent, complicating Tate's path to securing the Senate nomination. Despite these setbacks, he remains proud of the Democratic accomplishments during his leadership, including significant legislation on gun control and educational initiatives. As the political environment evolves, there are also noteworthy developments in technology policy. On the quantum front, recent legislative actions indicate a growing commitment to advancing the United States' position in this critical field. The introduction of the Quantum Sandbox for Near-Term Applications Act, aimed at fostering public-private partnerships for quantum technology development, showcases bipartisan efforts to stimulate innovation. Both the Senate and House versions of the bill have been referred to committees for further deliberation, reflecting a legislative push towards enhancing the nation's technological capabilities. Additionally, the Texas state legislature is making strides with the Texas Quantum Initiative, designed to position the state as a leader in quantum technology. This initiative aims to attract projects, support workforce training, and develop a manufacturing supply chain, demonstrating the state's proactive approach to harnessing the potential of quantum advancements. As discussions surrounding the National Quantum Initiative Act continue in Congress, industry leaders emphasize the need for reauthorization to maintain the U.S. competitive edge, particularly against global rivals like China. Witnesses from leading organizations including Google Quantum AI and Microsoft Quantum participated in committee hearings advocating for sustained investment in research and workforce development. As the nation navigates these complex political and technological landscapes, the outcomes of these initiatives and elections will significantly influence the course of American governance and innovation. The coming months will be crucial as both established and emerging leaders seek to shape the future, presenting opportunities and challenges that will resonate across various sectors. With the 2026 midterm elections on the horizon and a renewed focus on technology, the dynamics of power and policy in the United States are poised for a transformative period. As discussions surrounding birthright citizenship intensify, the U.S. Supreme Court is poised to deliberate a case that could have far-reaching implications for immigration policy and constitutional interpretation. On May 15, the justices will hear arguments related to President Donald Trump's controversial executive order aimed at restricting automatic citizenship for children born in the U.S. to non-citizen parents. This case not only tests the boundaries of executive power but also scrutinizes the role of federal courts in halting presidential actions. The Trump administration seeks to limit the scope of court orders that have temporarily blocked this citizenship directive, arguing that such nationwide injunctions infringe upon executive authority. Years of experience have shown that the executive branch cannot properly perform its functions if any judge anywhere can enjoin every presidential action everywhere, the Justice Department stated in its filing. This marks a significant moment for the Supreme Court, as it contemplates whether to uphold or curtail the ability of lower courts to issue injunctions that affect national policy. Legal analysts note that the current landscape of injunctions has evolved significantly since 2015, when a Texas lawsuit against the Obama administration set a precedent for such judicial interventions. Over the past decade, both Democratic and Republican administrations have faced numerous nationwide injunctions that challenge their policies. In Trump's first term alone, he encountered 64 such orders, a stark contrast to the 14 faced by President Joe Biden in his initial years. This uptick in judicial intervention has prompted calls for the Supreme Court to clarify the parameters of federal court authority. In the upcoming hearing, the administration's position hinges on the argument that only litigants directly involved in the lawsuits should be protected from the executive order, allowing the president to enforce changes broadly. Opponents of the policy argue that the citizenship status of more than 150,000 children born annually in the U.S. should not be contingent upon the state of their birth or the legal status of their parents. New Jersey Attorney General Matt Platkin emphasized the absurdity of differentiating citizenship based on geography, stating, "The Constitution does not support that notion." The case also resonates with historical underpinnings. Trump's assertion that the 14th Amendment's citizenship clause was designed exclusively for formerly enslaved individuals and does not extend to children of undocumented immigrants is a contentious interpretation. Legal scholars argue that such a change would disrupt over a century of established legal precedent regarding citizenship. Past Supreme Court justices have expressed concerns about the increasing prevalence of universal injunctions. Justice Neil Gorsuch has labeled them unworkable, pointing to the complications that arise when a single district judge can halt nationwide policy. Similarly, Justice Elena Kagan remarked on the issue of jurisdiction shopping, where litigants seek favorable rulings by targeting specific courts. The escalating use of nationwide injunctions has raised the question of whether such judicial power should be curtailed, a matter that may find its way into the Supreme Court's deliberations. Should the Supreme Court choose to reaffirm the scope of universal injunctions in this case, it could embolden lower courts to continue exercising this power. Conversely, a ruling that restricts such injunctions could redefine the landscape for future administrations, limiting the ability of judges to enjoin executive actions on a national scale. Legal experts suggest that a nuanced ruling might uphold the principle of birthright citizenship while simultaneously curtailing the broad application of federal injunctions. As the court prepares to hear this pivotal case, the implications for immigration policy and the balance of power among the branches of government remain profound. How the justices' rule could set a precedent not only for the Trump administration's policies but also for the legal framework governing executive action in America for years to come. The nation's eyes will be on the Supreme Court as it navigates this complex intersection of law policy and constitutional rights.